We're now live on YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. And hopefully, so for the last few days, my TikTok has been basically shut down because I'm showing my screen, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. So let me start up my everything, close this down, and we are rock and roll. Okay, should be fine. Patrick asks, what do you think about Grok in comparison to GPT? So Grok 4.1 came out yesterday, and it's top for like creative writing and writing text in general. It did very well. It's just been blown out of the water by Gemini 3, which came out yesterday. So for one day, Grok was the top model and now has kind of been ignored. But generally, I find ChatGPT, or most models, Claude as well, better than Grok. Grok is useful for images. So Grok image generator and Grok Imagine, which is the image to video generator, are very good, extremely fast, much better than ChatGPT. But for text, for coding, for research, for anything agentic, Grok isn't as good as ChatGPT. Unfortunately, I mean, maybe Grok 5 will be better, but at the moment, Grok is not really state of the art, I would say. Good morning, Alex. Right, so good morning. I'm going to kick off. So today we are talking very obviously about a particular topic. Oh, I need to do my intro because this will be going to the editor. Good morning, everybody. It is the 19th of November. This is AI with Kyle, and today we're going to be talking pretty much exclusively about the thing that everybody is talking about, which is Gemini 3. It has been released. I've been playing around with it all morning, and it's good. It's really good. I try and test and kick the tires of every single new model that comes out, and very rarely do I get to a point where I'm thinking, hey, this is new, this is good, I'm excited about this. It doesn't happen much. I think the last time was probably DeepSeek, and DeepSeek was primarily because it was free, it was open source, and it had come from China, so it was a surprise, like, oh wow, this is really good. Apart from that, for the last year or so, I cannot remember a single model coming out that blew my socks off. Most of them have been incremental improvements, something like ChatGPT, ChatGPT 5. Lots of people don't like it. I thought it was perfectly fine. ChatGPT 5.1, which came out a couple of weeks ago, was an incremental improvement. Grok 4 compared to Grok 3, it was fine, it's pretty good. Sonnet 4.5 compared to Sonnet 4.2 and Sonnet 4, again, very good, but nothing surprising. Gemini 3 is the first time that I've been surprised this year, because I've been playing around with it and I was fully expecting nothing particularly interesting. I was expecting it to be as good as ChatGPT, as good as Claude. It might be better, maybe. I need to test it more, but so far I've been very pleasantly surprised. If you've been on Twitter for the last day, on AI Twitter in particular, this will probably not surprise you because it is all everybody is talking about and all everybody is screaming about from the rooftops. People like it a lot. So let's dive in, have a look at Gemini 3, see if it's going to work for you, because ultimately that's all that matters, whether it's going to be helpful for you to use, and whether you should be using it or not. So we have an announcement from Logan. Logan Kilpatrick runs Google AI Studio. He's also great on Twitter. He's a bit like Sam Altman. He's good at driving up hype in a way that Google don't normally do. This is the first launch I've seen from them where they rolled out the hype machine, including people like Demis Hassabis, the founder of DeepMind and Nobel laureate, like a very extremely smart guy. Even Demis was out there basically pushing this model. So start building with Gemini 3. Gemini 3 is a state-of-the-art SOTA. If you see the acronym SOTA, that's what it is, state-of-the-art. I saw some people asking about that model, which basically competes in every category with ChatGPT and Sonnet and is beating them across the board. So humanities last exam, GPT 5.1 is getting 26.5%. Gemini 3 is at 37.5%, or if you give it the ability to execute code and use tools, up to 45.8%, so very good. And across the board, just killing it on all of the benchmarks, with one exception, one very important exception, which I will talk about later. Even Sam Altman has come out and said, hey, good job. It looks like a great model. He's saying it from a place of confidence. So the question here is, what does Sam Altman, what do OpenAI have in store? My speculation is that they are preparing for another 12 days of OpenAI. They did it last year and they released Sora. They released O3, I think it was. I think they released 4.0 as well. I get the timelines in these mixed up because there's so many of these damn models, but they had 12 days and they released a whole bunch of different things. I think they're going to be pushing something similar to that as we move into December. So I think no one's too worried. What I think is fascinating is that the whole of the internet will now be saying, I'm cancelling my ChatGPT subscription. I'm cancelling my Anthropic subscription. I'm all in on Gemini. I love Gemini. But a month from now, everybody will be saying, I'm cancelling Gemini. I'm back on Anthropic, or I'm here with Claude. We have these hype cycles and they last for about a month or so with everybody trying to get the clicks, trying to get the views. I think what we need to do is step back and remember that all of these models are getting better all of the time. That is kind of what matters here. Not what the best model is right now, but the fact that these guys are competing and continuously pushing out the best new models. Let me quickly click through a few of the other tweets and then I'll jump over to some questions. So Demis Hassabis from DeepMind. We've been intensely cooking Gemini 3 for a while now, and we're so excited and proud to share the results with you. Of course, it tops the leaderboards, including Arena, HLE, GPQA, etc. But beyond the benchmarks, it's been by far my favorite model to use for its style and depth and what it can help do with everyday tasks. This is what's kind of important. With every single launch, they all top the benchmarks. Like, they don't launch until it tops the benchmarks. And if you're someone like Meta, you do it in a cheeky way where you launch multiple models onto the benchmarking sites and then you claim that your model is the one that does best. They've been caught doing this before, where they'll launch 10 different slight variations of the model, see which one does best in the benchmarks and say, yeah, that's the one, that's the real one, which is a bit cheeky. You can also train for the benchmarks, etc., etc. So the benchmarks are one thing. It's great for the marketing, but you kind of have to be at the top in order to be recognized. So Grok 4.1, which came out yesterday, didn't top many benchmarks, so it kind of got ignored. Google 3, which came out also yesterday, is topping everything, apart from one exception, which we'll talk about, and that is kind of the baseline from which you start. But it depends on whether it is easy to use, whether it gives results in a style that you want, whether it fits into your workflow. It's these kind of things that matter. And it needs to be so good that it needs to pull you away from whatever you're using right now, whether it's ChatGPT or Anthropic. Moving over to another ecosystem is a pain. It's a pain in the ass, especially when ChatGPT or Anthropic already have your memories, they already have your project set up. There is a switching cost moving to Gemini, so it has to be better. So across the board, though, just knocking it out of the park. The big one is the ARC AGI 2. You've probably seen this chart. It's a hell of a chart. It has the score on the ARC AGI, so General Intelligence Leaderboard. Gemini 3 has basically made a jump to the next level. It's a Pareto jump. It costs a lot of money to run these tasks, but you can see this is all the other models down here. Has it got 5.1? I don't think 5.1 is on here, so I think 5.1 is meant to be kind of here, but Gemini 3 has just shot up, so it's taken us to the next level, supposedly. And then we have something else called Gemini 3 DeepThink, which is in preview, which is, you can see it over here, which is leaps and bounds above anything else. But do look at the cost of this. This prompt to run this, to get this result, has cost about $70. And so you compare that to Gemini 3, gets a 31%, and it's costing about 80 cents per task. Gemini 3 DeepThink is taking us to 45%, but it's costing $78 per task. So we're seeing a lot of compute, a lot of money being thrown into this, but the results of putting that money and putting that energy in, allowing the model to think for that long, are stupendous. So that's DeepSeek, which is even more state-of-the-art compared to Gemini 3 Pro. People haven't been paying that much attention to DeepSeek, I think because it's in preview mode. It's not accessible to everybody, and it costs a huge amount of money to run, but it can show us a glimpse of what's happening in the future. Right, I'm going to hop over to questions, because otherwise I will just keep saying Google, 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 Gemini 100 times. So let me hop over to these and then I'll come back. Grok offers more up-to-date research, I find, but GPT gives better reasoning. I will try Gemini. Grok's really good because it has access to Twitter, or to X, excuse me, which is really useful because a lot of the top minds, top thinkers and speakers in technical spaces like artificial intelligence are on X. So if you're watching my live today, you'll notice that most of the things I'm showing are from Twitter. That's because that's where the artificial intelligence community lives. This is where all the news is broken. This is where the discussions are had. So regardless of what you think about Twitter or X, it doesn't really matter because this is where the discussions are. I know a lot of people in the AI space were like, I'm not going on Twitter. It's like, well, that's kind of where everyone is. This is where Logan Kilpatrick, who I've got on screen, this is where Demis Hassabis, this is where, for better or worse, Elon Musk is. They are all on this platform. Sam Altman is here. And this is where they discuss artificial intelligence, and it's where the news breaks. Grok has access to all of that, which makes it incredibly powerful for certain applications when the experts and when the discourse on a subject is within Twitter. It gives Grok a huge advantage there, especially because the X API is pretty much closed. They are experimenting with opening it up now, but previously it used to cost a huge amount of money. Not a huge amount, but yeah, it wasn't readily available for people to develop on. It would cost you a few tens of thousands of dollars to get access. Now they're starting to open it up and testing it out for building an ecosystem. But that's a relatively new thing. So that means that Grok has all of this really high-level discourse and information within Twitter, which is, as we move forward, an incredible moat because the models need more data. And XAI and Grok, unlike a lot of the other models, have access to that natively within its own ecosystem. This is why there's rumblings about OpenAI setting up a social media company, for example, because if they can get people in space, that creates data, and you can use that data to train models. This is an advantage that Meta have as well, because they train on all of your Facebook posts and all of your Instagram posts. That gets fed into their models. It's also why LinkedIn recently, unless you opt out of it, LinkedIn now trains models based on your posts. So specifically Microsoft will train on your posts because they own LinkedIn. So having that source of data for Grok, really, really useful. So if you are in a particular field that hangs around on Twitter, then Grok is going to be more useful. 100%. Good morning, Lyra. How are you? Can you use custom personas in Gemini? No, I don't think so. Or at least I haven't checked it out. I've been using it on my phone. I think the answer is no. You can do instructions. Yeah, so you can add instructions. So custom instructions. So use British English. I might put in, managed to spell British wrong. Give me short, concise answers. Try to source and reference your answers whenever you can. I can give it those kind of custom instructions, slightly different to a personality. Let me check. No, I think that's all of it for now. It is just instructions. So personalities are relatively new for ChatGPT. And they were introduced as a response to the shift from 4.0 to GPT-5. So a lot of people hated, I mean, I won't understate this, they hated the shift from 4.0 to 5 because they liked the personality of 4.0, which is much more agreeable, it's much more friendly, much more human, whereas GPT-5 was much more robotic, it was factual based, it would call out people's BS sometimes. And so a lot of people are like, oh, I want 4.0, I want 4.0 back. In response, one of the things that OpenAI did was introduce personalities into ChatGPT, and they've expanded it with the recent 5.1 introduction as well. So they did it as a patch job after the release of 5, because they had a week or so, if you remember, where they were in pure panic because everybody hated GPT-5. And they quickly rolled back and they gave 4.0 back as a legacy model. They added in the personalities, etc., to try and calm everyone down. And then they've extended that and added even more personalities now. That does not seem to exist in Gemini, as far as I can see. Everyone seems mad about 5.1 in the AI companion space. Yeah, I imagine they are. I think in the companion space, people have been mad since 4.0, or the removal of 4.0, because 4.0 was very good for companions. And it's a space where the kind of the subjective feel of the model is very important. Whereas what people like me, I admit this, people like me and people like all the ones that we're looking at today for the release of Gemini, they're looking at benchmarks. They're looking at numbers. They're looking at how good is it at this reasoning test? Can it do the International Math Olympiad, etc., etc.? That kind of stuff does not translate into how the model feels to use. That is a very different thing. That's subjective, which is why Demis Hassabis saying it's by far my favorite model for use for its style and depth and what it can do to help you with everyday tasks. That is a nice concession to the fact that it's not just about these benchmarks. It is it's more intangible. It's our subjective feelings about these models. And I don't know about you, but I prefer the way that Anthropic's models talk. I prefer the way they reason. I prefer the written examples. And that's subjective. That is not based on, is it better at writing? That's a really hard thing to kind of nail down. And in the companion space, that is, in particular, that is extremely, extremely important. So yeah, I imagine 5.1 is not making people very happy. I'm trying to build a local model LLM. GPT is helping, it's not going well. Are you doing it on your own device, like literally a computer sitting under your desktop, or are you doing it on the cloud? Because you can rent cloud servers and get good performance if you're doing it locally on your computer. It depends if you're training or you're fine-tuning. But if you're training a model on your local computer, you need a huge amount of processing power, and it becomes not very economically feasible. PewDiePie, interestingly, the YouTuber, he just did it. He's training his own model, but he has, I think, he's got 10 GPUs, and I think they're 480s or 490s. So each one of them is $2,000-$3,000. So he's built a $20,000 to $30,000 machine, and he's using that to train. And even then, it takes weeks and weeks to train. So building one yourself is great to do, but if you're doing it on your computer at home, you need a huge amount of processing power. If you are fine-tuning, you need less processing power. Or if you are just working with kind of an existing model and applying some custom instructions and guardrails on top of it locally, then you require even less, because you can use an existing model, like a Llama-based model or GPT OSS or something like that. It'd be interesting to see what you're doing. Oh, you're using 4.0. Yeah, I'd be interested to see how you're doing that. Oh, you're tuning only. Yes, okay. Yeah, training is... This is the thing that lots of people push for. Oh, we need it open. We need to be able to train our own models, and we need to be able to fine tune our own models. Absolutely, 100%. It's an important stuff. Increasingly, it's not becoming. It's just not feasible, because the size of the models, the state of the art models, cannot be run. And you can't run the inference on a local computer, and you certainly can't train them on a local computer. This is why we're building data centers, for hundreds and hundreds of millions, and then running training runs for millions and millions and millions of dollars in electricity. So it's a nice idea to have it all open source, to have control of it, but it is increasingly being taken out of our hands and moved into data centers, just because it's not feasible anymore. Yeah, it's not going to happen on a Dell. And it is a fun project. Check out the where was it? The Small Training Handbook. The Small Training Handbook by Hugging Face, The Secrets to Building World-Class LLMs. It's quite technical, but it's very, very well written, and it walks you through step by step by step. Obviously, it's about Hugging Face, so it will say, hey, you should use Hugging Face. But this is good. It says, it raises the uncomfortable truth. Maybe you don't need to train your own models. Which, as they point out, is a weird way to start a large language model training guide. But have a look at this. It's Hugging Face. If you Google Hugging Face Smol, S-M-O-L, training playbook, it would turn up. Really, really good resource. Cool. I'm going to hop back into Google. So, the big question is, why is Google Gemini so good? There's no real secret here, fascinatingly. People have been speculating, like, oh, did they do something special? No. It's just more training. So this is always the question, is, are we hitting this plateau? The answer to that at the moment, as of today, is no, not yet. So the secret behind Gemini 3, this is VP of Research and Deep Learning at Google DeepMind, and Gemini co-lead, so he knows what he's talking about. He says, the secret behind Gemini 3 is simple: improving pre-training and post-training. Just doing more. Pre-training. Contra the popular belief that scaling is over, which we discussed in our talk recently, the team delivered a drastic jump. The the difference between 2.5 and 3 is as big as we've ever seen. No walls in sight. So they have done more pre-training. So pre-training is where the model is learning about the world, where you just ingest a huge amount of data. You chunk it up into tokens, you start to embed it into the model. And up until now, and potentially for the future, the more you put in, the better the model will be. It's a bit crude, but it seems to track. There were people talking about, okay, we're going to hit a plateau. There's going to be a point where, we run out of information, or this method will just stop working, and we're going to need to look at other things like spatial intelligence, world models, for example. So Yann LeCun, in particular, he's just left Meta to go and start something in that space, and Fei-Fei Li is working in that space too. So some very smart people are moving over there. But Google are saying, well, for now, we are just throwing more at it in pre-training, and it's fine. Scaling is not showing down. So that's the first part, pre-training. Give it more, and it will do better. That still works. And then post-training, he says, is still a total greenfield. There's a lot of room for algorithmic progress, and improvement, and 3 hasn't been an exception, thanks to our stellar team. So post-training is once you've got the model and you've trained it up, you've done the pre-training, then you can apply some additional levels of post-training. This is things like RLHF, which is reinforcement learning from human feedback, preference modeling, instructions, kind of optimization for tool use, safety, reasoning, scaffolding. Like, there's a whole bunch of things you can do at this level to improve the performance. And he's saying this is greenfield, like we are still working out new ways to make our models more intelligent during our post-training. And often this is where we see a lot of big shifts happen. So I'm thinking like Claude 2 to Claude 3 was a big jump in RLHF, reinforcement learning from human feedback. In fact, the people who started Claude, Anthropic, were from the RLHF team at OpenAI. They kind of pioneered it, and then they went off and did their own thing. So Gemini 3 and the team behind it are basically saying, we didn't do anything that different. We threw more data at it, and then we did some even more post-training, and we've come out with a good model. So there isn't anything architecturally that different. It's not a different beast. It's not a different type of artificial intelligence. It's just more of the same done better. And that is so far sufficient to continue without hitting a plateau. And if we look at that, the ARC AGI 2 leaderboard, just doing more of it better has allowed them to make that leap up to the next level. And whilst this is an incredibly impressive chart, we have to remember that in a month or two, we'll see Anthropic, we'll see OpenAI, we'll see Grok, we'll see all of the other models making similar leaps and bounds, because it will be continuous. Will we hit a plateau a bit later? Maybe. We don't know what that is yet. But at that point, if we do start to plateau, there will be questions for the market, the financial markets, like, oh, we're not going to hit AGI this way, are we? And there will be questions about, do we need to look at different architectures? Do we need to look at something that's different to larger language models? Probably. But that's fine. That's kind of how science and progress works. We will just continue to exploit this particular method, and then when we start to see diminishing returns on it, look at other ways, other breakthroughs, other ways to move forward, which is absolutely fine. So I did mention earlier, Gemini has some areas where it has weaknesses. The first of all, and this is a big one, this is a big weak area, is coding. So here is Vedant Misra, who is ASI at DeepMind and OpenAI. Oh, both? I think he's at DeepMind now, and he's got this great kind of dialogue, fake dialogue, or probably fake dialogue between his mum and himself. Mum, how's work going? Me, pretty good. We made all the numbers go way up in this table and we shipped the best model in the world. Mum, that's nice, but what happened with the software engineering benchmark row? Me, Mum, can you not write now? So they're up on every single benchmark, apart from SWE, the software engineering benchmark. Where is it? The fact that they've added it on this table is great. There it is. SWE bench verified. So the best for software engineering, according to SWE bench, is still Sonnet 4.5, which is the model behind Claude Code, and it's the model that most people swear by. It's the one that I use on a daily basis too, and it's really, really good. Really, really good. So this is a chink in their armor, because a lot of the people who will be looking to use Gemini, a lot of the people who are always looking for the newest, hottest model are engineers and software developers, people who are building with this. For the public is mainly happy with ChatGPT, or whatever they're given at work. The people who are switching models, who are cancelling subscriptions, who are working out what to build with, are the engineers and the builders. So the fact that it has this chink in its armor and is maybe not as good as at coding as Sonnet 4.5, which came out a couple of months ago, is a problem, a big problem. If we look at Burkov, what's his real name? 100-page ML. Gosh. Oh, it's Burkov. Andrei Burkov. Excuse me. Sorry, Andrei. He's talking about something called code incontinence. So this is potentially a big issue for Gemini. I have not seen it myself, but I have not coded enough. I am also not a software developer, so I'm not I'm not going to speak about this. I'm going to listen to the very smart people. So Gemini has code incontinence. 2.5 had it and 3 has it too. You ask it to fix a bug, it prints a fix consisting of 3 files, you update the code and run the test, and the bug is still there. You tell Gemini the bug is still there and ask it to add logging to gather additional info. After 2 minutes of thinking, it says it's added the login file and then claims it knows what the issue is, and again prints these 3 files claiming the issue is now fixed. You say that you haven't run the previous version of the fixed code yet to get the new login files, so what's the point about providing another guest-based fix? After 2 minutes of thinking, Gemini says, "You're absolutely right." This is Claude language, and prints these 3 files again. You ask whether these 3 files are different to those that you haven't tested yet, and it says, "You're absolutely right, they contain the new fix," and prints the files again, now with the logging, but without the second fix. You interrupt the printing and tell it to shut up. After 2 minutes of thinking, it starts printing the 3 files without any comments. You interrupt it again to say shush, now in all caps. After 2 minutes of thinking, it prints the 3 files without any comments. I can't read that on stream, but goodness me, Google, what have you done? You had one job to do, beat Claude in coding, and you did what? So I have had this problem in Google's Nano Banana in particular. And some of you guys might have had this where you'll ask it for an image, and it will give you the image and it will be fine. You'll be like, okay, cool. Can you remove that guy's mustache? And it will give you back another image sit there in a process, and then boop, there's the image. Same dude, same mustache, hasn't changed anything. And it would tell you underneath, like, done it, I've changed it, I've tried to change it for you, this is much better. Yeah, you're absolutely right, we should have got rid of the mustache. And you're sitting there like, well, it's the same image, what are you talking about? And you go back to Google and you're like, no, but you haven't removed the mustache, so can you try again? It will go ahead and think, and it will give you another image, same mustache, maybe it's even bigger. And then it will gaslight you and say, yes, there, I've done it, I've fixed it, you were absolutely right, I have removed the mustache. And it goes on again and again and again. I have that with Nano Banana, and I'm sure a lot of other people have. And the only way to fix that is to close the chat and come back and start a new chat, start fresh. Apparently, there's something similar in the code where it will basically gaslight you. It will tell you it's fixed something, but it won't have done anything. And it will just continue to try to push what it's done, try to commit when nothing has been changed. And it would tell you every time you kind of stop it and say, hey, you haven't actually fixed anything, it would say, oh gosh, you're absolutely right. And it would say, I'll fix that right away. And then it would do exactly the same thing again, which is incredibly frustrating. I know it from Nano Banana. I'm sure a lot of you do too, but apparently it's happening in coding with Gemini 3, which if you're trying to build something, makes it very, very difficult. And you probably have to close out the session, restart, and kind of get it out of that loop. We have moved past that in coding, in vibe coding. This used to be a thing in vibe coding 9 months ago, where you just get stuck in a loop. That is no longer the case. Claude and Codex can blast through those loops now, and you no longer get the kind of whack-a-mole bug creation that we used to have. But it sounds like Google still has a bit of an issue here. The other big issue is it's pretty expensive. It's really expensive. Now, all models, when they come out, are always the priciest models. Gemini 3 Pro is very expensive. So this is for 1 million tokens, but if you use more or less than 200,000, it has different prices. So 1 million tokens is $4 input if you use more than 200,000, or $18 output, which is a lot of money. Let me see if anybody's done it. Just trying to see if somebody's got the ChatGPT numbers, because this is magnitudes more expensive. I'm not seeing it here. Okay, I'm not going to do it on stream because it's a bit boring running through all the numbers, but it's very expensive. This will come down, and obviously if it's expensive but it gets the job done, that is not a problem. But if it is like Burkov is saying, expensive and running into these loops where it's not actually fixing anything, then that's just money being burned. We will not see the results of this for a few days. We need to allow people to test it out. We need to allow people to work with it for the next few days. Right now, what we're seeing is the immediate reaction with people being like, oh, wow, it's really good. Oh, great, Gemini's fantastic. That's my reaction from using it very casually. Over the next few days, that's when we'll start to see the cracks, if there are any, starting to open, and people coming back and being like, actually, it can't do this, or, ooh, it's not as good as Sonnet as this. But that's going to take a few days. So just let the dust settle, and in a few days we should have a more complete idea of what is going on. That said, go and use it. Genuinely, it's one of the most impressive models I've used this year. It feels like a huge delta, a huge shift from what they had before. 2.5 was, there was no real reason to use Gemini 2.5. One, because it was quite old. It came out in March, which by AI standards is decades. And even back in March, it was okay. It wasn't particularly exciting, and there was no good reason to move from ChatGPT or to move from Anthropic over to another model, which is just okay. There's no reason to do so as well. You have to blow everyone out of the water to get people to shift. Google Gemini 3 seems to be more of a moment like that, where it's going to actually drag people away from ChatGPT. So go and try it out. There is an app on your phone. There is, or you Google Gemini, you Google Gemini and you'll be able to access it as well. You just log in using your Google account and it is free to use. Obviously, there's a limitation to how many 3 Pro queries you can put in if you're on the free plan, and if you want to use more, you can upgrade. But I would say go and try it out, because whatever we say about these benchmarks, whatever experts are saying, doesn't really matter if it doesn't work for you, and if you don't like its tone, and if it doesn't help you with your tasks. That's all that matters here. So you have to go and try it out. And unlike a lot of models where I would say don't bother, this is one where you do actually want to spend a few hours just like seeing if it's good for you. Like I was saying, I absolutely have with Nano Banana. It's frustrating. Yes, the Nano Banana refusal to edit images is, I mean, it makes it useless, because a lot of people loved Nano Banana and it had some really impressive outputs. I didn't get the hype because as soon as I started to use it for actual production, I was trying to create graphics I could use in a course. Its inability to edit, its inability to change based on feedback meant that it was basically useless. You had to one-shot the image, and if you one-shot the image, it looked great. Nano Banana is fantastic. If you tried to make an image and it didn't work first time, you'd end up in this loop. You'd waste a huge amount of time, get very frustrated, and not be any closer to getting the actual work done. So I thought Nano Banana was very good at one-shotting impressive images, good for social media, but when you needed to actually implement it into your workflow and you needed control of its outputs, it didn't work. Hopefully Nano Banana 2 will be better. We may get Nano Banana 2 this week. I would bet we are. So Google are using this week to drop a lot of new product. The other thing, actually, before we wrap up, is anti-gravity. Anti-gravity is a new software development tool. So if you've used Cursor, if you've used Windsurf, VS Code, anything like that, this is the new version from Google. It is right now free. So they have a public preview. So the individual plan is $0 a month. You get started with your Google account, and that gives you agent access to Gemini 3 Pro, Claude Sonnet 4.5, yes, we love that one, and GPT OSS. Sure, why not? So you're really here for Claude Sonnet 4.5 and Gemini 3 Pro, and you can use the open source GPT if you want, but it's free. So hey, why not? Anyone offering free access to Claude Sonnet 4.5 Pro for coding is worth checking out. I don't know how long it'll be free for, but this is as they're pushing their new tool. So it's called Anti-Gravity. So you might be wondering, it's like, what? I swear Google already have one of these. What? What is this? So Google, bless them, they throw a lot of spaghetti at the wall, and not all of it sticks. So they recently bought Google purchased Windsurf, right? Yeah. Okay. So Google bought Windsurf for $2.5 billion. I remember now. This was back in July. So they bought the licensing deal for the technology. Initially, Windsurf was going to get acquired fully, but instead Google swooped in, purchased Windsurf for $2.5 billion. Most of that money went to the founders of Windsurf, and the whole of the Windsurf team basically got laid off. So it looks like, from what I've read, anti-gravity is what they have made with the remnants of Windsurf. So they bought Windsurf for $2.5 billion, gutted it, basically shut it down, and now anti-gravity is the what they've built using the bricks that were left over from Windsurf. And Windsurf was great. It was a good little development environment. I prefer Cursor personally, but Windsurf had its supporters. So if you liked Windsurf, you might like Anti-Gravity. Again, it is free to check out. You can download it on Mac, OSS, or Linux, and it is free, at least for now. I'm sure it'll go up to $20, $50, $100 a month once they roll it out properly. But for now, it's a free download and it's a free individual plan, which will give you access to Claude Sonnet 4.5 and Gemini 3 Pro. So definitely go and check that out as well. We're going to have a very, very busy Google week. So we've got Gemini 3 Pro, we've got Gemini DeepMind. I'm going to have to get the name. DeepThink. Gemini 3 DeepThink. We have anti-gravity. I think we're going to have Nano Banana probably today or in the next few days, and it will continue like this. So I will try to pass through it all and show you what's worth looking into and what's worth ignoring, but do expect an awful lot of Google over the next few days. Awesome. Right, I'm going to finish up the live stream. As always, make sure you're subscribed to the newsletter. You can get details of it on aiwithkyle.com. The newsletter is basically a written summary of everything that's been covered in the prior live. And I'll give you all of the resources as well. So for something like Google Anti-Gravity, I'll make sure the download links are there so that you can get access. And also subscribe on YouTube if you are not. We are working our way towards 10,000 followers. I think we're at 9,000. Oh, okay, 9,100. So we should hit, I hope, 10,000 before the end of the year. So make sure you subscribe there and on the newsletter as well, because it really helps me out. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow. I'm going to close out the YouTube.